Emily inherited her grandmother's house, nestled near an eerie forest. The house had a dark reputation, and whispers about its cursed past lingered like an unshakable fog. The attic, where an ornate mirror stood, was said to hold something unnatural. The locals spoke of a man named James who had once lived there, a man whose fate was forever intertwined with the house's twisted history. Emily, curious and undeterred by the ominous rumors, decided to stay in the house. From the moment she stepped inside, something felt wrong. The atmosphere was thick with an unsettling energy, but it was the mirror that caught her attention most. When she gazed into it, her reflection seemed to move on its own, as though a separate entity resided within the glass. At night, Emily's dreams were plagued by visions of a man, his face handsome but his eyes filled with an unnatural darkness. She began to feel as though James was always near, watching her from the corners of her mind. She tried to dismiss it, but the dreams grew more vivid, and the feeling of being watched became more pronounced. One night, while sleep-deprived and desperate for answers, Emily stood in front of the mirror. The cold surface seemed to beckon her. Slowly, the reflection of the man she'd seen in her dreams took form before her eyes. He introduced himself as James, a soul trapped within the house, for reasons he couldn't quite explain. He claimed he was bound to the house by a curse, and only Emily could free him. He spoke of a love that transcended death, promising Emily that together they could be reunited in a way that defied the laws of nature. His presence, though disembodied, was intoxicating. Emily felt drawn to him, as if his words were a spell she couldn't break. The connection between them deepened, and night after night, she waited for James to appear. As days passed, Emily's once vibrant appearance began to fade. Her skin grew pale, her eyes sunken, and she withdrew from the world around her. The house became her sanctuary, her only link to James. It was as though her entire existence was centered on him. She no longer cared about the outside world, only about the nights she spent with James in the mirror. But as her obsession grew, so did the darkness surrounding her. One stormy night, the air in the house became thick with a malevolent energy. The mirror pulsed with a strange light, and James's voice took on an edge of cruelty. He no longer spoke of love, his words twisted into something darker. He revealed that the curse that bound him required a sacrifice, one that could only be fulfilled by Emily's soul. Before she could protest, the house trembled violently. The walls seemed to close in on her, and the ground beneath her feet shook. The mirror shattered, its pieces scattering across the floor like shards of broken glass. But James's form didn't disappear. Instead, it grew monstrous, his features contorting into a grotesque, decaying version of himself. His once warm eyes now burned like embers, and his voice, now low and guttural, filled the room with an unsettling chill. "You belong to me now," he snarled. Emily tried to scream, but her voice was swallowed by the oppressive silence. The house seemed to shift around her, the walls closing in like a suffocating trap. With no escape, she was consumed by the darkness, her form becoming one with the house. Weeks later, a group of paranormal investigators, eager to uncover the truth behind Emily's disappearance, arrived at the house. They were a trio: Jenna, Eric, and Nate, armed with cameras, recording devices, and a sense of bravado. They had heard the rumors about the house and its haunted past, and were determined to uncover the truth. The first night was uneventful. They explored the creaking floors, set up their equipment, and called out into the darkness. Nothing. No spirit answered. But the second night brought a chilling change. Jenna, the leader of the group, stood in the attic, staring at the broken mirror. Its shards lay scattered across the floor, untouched by time. She leaned closer, mesmerized by the strange flicker of movement in the glass. "Do you see that?" Jenna whispered, her voice quivering with fear. Her companions rushed to her, sighed, but by the time they arrived, the mirror was nothing more than a collection of broken glass. They dismissed her as being nervous, but Jenna couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. Determined to provoke a response from the spirit, the group decided to perform a séance in the dining room. They lit candles, summoned the spirit of James, and called out to him. The air grew colder, and the flickering candlelight cast long shadows on the walls. "I feel you, James," Jenna said, her voice trembling but steady. "We're here to understand what happened to Emily." At the mention of Emily's name, the room erupted in chaos. Windows slammed shut, the candles extinguished, and an unholy growl resonated from the walls. Shadows danced around them,